Hey friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to the channel. So a couple weeks ago, I posted on the Wrestle Juice community tab an idea I had for a video, how to become a wrestling YouTuber. I asked y'all if you'd be interested in a video like that, and a lot of you said yes. So I figured I would do that now. And once my brain started thinking about this idea, I actually decided to do a series of videos. One on this one, how to be a wrestling YouTuber. Another one, how to be a wrestling Twitch streamer. Another one, how to be a wrestling podcaster. And then a fourth one where I would ask you guys if you had any questions about my lessons about how to do stuff in the digital media space. And I do an AMA on this topic specifically. The genesis of this series sort of came about because I have some good friends over at Wrestling Brain, which is a Twitch channel / podcast now that we stumbled upon a couple months ago over at Going in Raw. And I was like, wow, these guys seem really cool. I really like their graphics. They've got a cool, chill vibe to them. They sort of remind me of me and Larson over at Going in Raw. And so we rated them a couple times, and I've seen their audience grow, and they've got this podcast now. And they hit me up a couple weeks ago and said, hey, Steve, you got any advice? We're thinking about doing X, Y, and Z. We're thinking about taking our Wrestling Brain channel and turning it into a podcast. And I was like, great idea. That's awesome. Here's everything I know, because I like sharing my knowledge. I think it's fun. And so I was like, hey, I'll take that knowledge and I'll share with you guys here at Wrestle Juice, because maybe there's some budding wrestling media people out there that just need to get a little kick in the pants and a little piece of advice. And so I thought I'd do that here. Before I get started, I'm going to do something that every YouTuber should be doing, and that's telling you, the audience, the friendos, to hit that thumbs up button and hit that subscribe button, because that stuff YouTube loves. So YouTube tells me to tell you guys, to ask you guys to do that stuff, and in return, if you do that enough, this video will get into people's recommendeds, and then it'll grow. That's how it works. That's what YouTube does. So we're going to start off first talking about YouTube and what YouTube wants. I saw a tweet a couple weeks ago on the Twitter, and I forget honestly who tweeted this out. I didn't really know the person. Somebody else retweeted or something, and it said YouTube doesn't encourage experimentation on your YouTube channels. And I saw a lot of responses to that being like, yeah, YouTube, what? You should allow experimentation. Whenever we try to do something different, it doesn't do well. You don't like experimentation. Well, here's the thing. YouTube is just a company owned by Google trying to make money. And they have determined that the best way to make money is by not really encouraging experimentation on your channel. I feel like it's nothing personal. YouTube's current business philosophy is bingeable content keeps people from leaving YouTube. And ultimately, that's what YouTube wants, because their competition is Amazon Prime, it's Twitch, it's Netflix, it's Hulu, it's everything else that offers what? Bingeable content. All those platforms don't want people leaving their platforms, and YouTube is no different. It used to be back in the day, like a long time ago, like 10 years ago, they would try to keep people on their platform by allowing thumbnails it's literally the definition of clickbait, meaning you would see something maybe sexual or gory in a thumbnail, and you'd click on it, or it would offer something that didn't actually it was talked about in the video. It's clickbait. We all know what clickbait is, right? Well, some of us do. Some of us don't, evidently. And so that's why you'd get a lot of sexualized thumbnails back on YouTube back in the day. It'd just, show a woman's chest or something, and you click on it and then it'd be some dude talking or something like that, right? And their numbers would be sky high, and YouTube was like, oh, cool, those numbers are really good, but the watch time sucked. Because we all know what they're trying to watch when they click on that thumbnail, and they weren't getting it. So they'd click off that really quickly. And so YouTube then changed their algorithm to a long form, to encourage long form content. That's when Going in Raw really kind of blew up, because we were podcast on YouTube, and we would have longer watch times. People would go to the channel and they'd watch us for a longer period of time. It was just bulky, long watch time. And then YouTube changed the algorithm a couple of years ago to encourage, and that's what it is at now, to encourage bingeable content. That's when the experimentation thing sort of got left in the dust. These days, YouTube wants your channel to essentially be a single program, right? So for example, over at Going in Raw, we're a podcast. So whenever we do content that's between 30 minutes and an hour long, it typically performs to a certain level. If we try to do content that is 15 minutes long, it underperforms. When we do content that is outside the realm of me and Larson talking to each other, video game stuff, et cetera, it underperforms. And that's because YouTube has decided that when you stray away from your core content programming, people are more likely to leave YouTube because they're used to a video. I'll give you an example. We're going to go ahead and look at some examples here. So here is Wrestle Juice. Back then, what you're looking at here was actually referred to, I called the channel Friendoville. Before that, it was MF Steve here. I changed it to Friendoville, and now it's Wrestle Juice. But this is what it looked like here. Back here, this is what it looked like. Oh, look at that. Back then, I was doing reviews about the show Picard. I was doing those Ask Stephen Lacey's. I was trying all sorts of stuff here. Look at that. I got UFOs. Did these Last Dance reviews with Larson. So I was trying all sorts of stuff. It was a variety of things that I was trying. This is my throw shit at the wall and see what sticks phase. And as you can see, the numbers were not very good. They were sort of all over the place. Like the Ask Stephen Lacey's did okay, but then when I would do, I mean, look at this. It shows like this is when Serge Ibaka died on my Slow Wolfpack team here in NBA 2K20. That did pretty well, but you can only do that so often. Things just generally didn't do great here at Friendoville. Look at this. We have an announcement to Ask Stephen Lacey. Like, people probably thought, oh, they're getting divorced or Lacey's pregnant or something. No, we were just like canceling the show. No, what were we doing here? Oh, we were doing the Ghost podcast. That's what we're going to do. That didn't really last very long. So as you can see, just a variety of crap I was trying. This is not bingeable content. Okay. This is for a very, very small select audience. I'm sure some people liked it, but in terms of reaching a wider audience, YouTube was not going to recommend any of this stuff because none of it really fed into each other. It was all just a variety of stuff. Fast forward to when I started Wrestle Juice, the numbers started getting a lot better. And I realized that if you take a look at some of this stuff, like, for example, or look at this, me stuffing my fat face. If you take a look at some of this stuff, one of the first videos that did really, really well here at Wrestle Juice was Lacey, my wife, reacting to an FMW exploding barbed wire match. That did really, really well. So at that point, I was just like, look, I've got outside interests. I know that, but people know me from the wrestling sphere. Is there a way I can do this channel, keep me interested in it, talk about wrestling? And I was like, yeah, I actually really like pro wrestling. That's why I've made a job out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and just steer all my content towards pro wrestling. And I'll talk about other stuff wherever. I guess in the pre-show on Going in Raw, or on my Instagram, or just on my Twitter, whatever. But I just won't make YouTube videos about that stuff. So we had this Wrestling News Now video that did really well. That did 19,000 views, but then boom, look, I do a review on Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League. It does 4,000, which is better than it was doing before, but didn't do as well as this video here, what WWE on Peacock looks like, which did 36,000 views. And I took a look at that thumbnail. I was like, man, what a great looking thumbnail for like YouTube stuff. It's got my dumb face. It's got the title of like basically the video on the thumbnail. It's got an arrow pointing to what I'm talking about. It's a very YouTube type video. And I thought to myself, okay, I wonder if I could do stuff that's just sort of like that. And then fast forward a couple months later, and look, this is what my thumbnail scheme is now. It's my dumb face making a face like I'm talking about stuff, and then next to me is a giant headline with a picture in a yellow box. And as you can see, you know, my videos are doing a hell of a lot better now, aren't they? They're doing pretty darn well. Look at this. Importance of AEW All Out got 40,000 views. Why is Steve not a Christian Cage fan? 15,000. How to unbury Karrion Kross? 10,000. It's kind of rare these days that one of my videos doesn't do 10,000 views. And one of the biggest illustrations of the importance of branding on YouTube vis-a-vis these thumbnails is this tier ranking video that I did right here. If you take a look at this thumbnail, it's a thumbnail that looks very much like sort of the current WrestleJuice thumbnail. My dumb face sitting behind a microphone, and then whatever I'm talking about as a title, followed by the subject in a yellow box. If you contrast that or compare that with how I used to do my tier ranking video thumbnails, look, 7,000 tier ranking the Ruthless Aggression era. Money in the Bank cash-ins, 7,000. Tier ranking WCW World Champions. If you take a look, the thumbnail doesn't look like my typical WrestleJuice thumbnail. And none of these did over like 10,000. Like here, this one did 10,000. I think, yeah, tier ranking championships, NXT champions. Okay, this one here. Tier ranking every WWF, WWE World Champion did 11,000. But because I conformed this video right here to the current thumbnail format that I use, look at that, 25,000. I mean, yeah, you can chalk this up to, you know, the fact that I was doing the AEW roster, and then I added the caveat that I'm trying to do it in less than 10 minutes. But this did like over double what my best performing tier rank video did. Clearly, there is something to be said about the branding. That's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just what it is. Now, would some people find this format boring? Maybe, but it's just how YouTube likes things. It wants your channel to be a single program. And that's the main takeaway from YouTube these days, is that it's not that it's anti-experimentation. The corollary, the analogy here would be if NBC was running a really popular program Thursdays at 9 p.m. on their channel, would they be rewarded by the audience if they then took that program out and experimented with another program in its same spot? No, they wouldn't be rewarded by that. People would probably tune out because it's like, wait, I wanted this really popular thing that you had, and now you just dumped in. It's kind of like when Vince McMahon bought that Saturday slot on TBS and took out Georgia Championship Wrestling and put in WWF programming. It was a colossal failure because people wanted what they were used to, and then Vince started showing them all of his stuff instead, and then it was a colossal failure. He sold his spot to Ted Turner and used that money to do WrestleMania. So it's not necessarily that YouTube doesn't like experimentation. They just want you to stick with what you're good at. And if you have an idea that you want to experiment with that is worthy enough that you think, oh man, this idea is really good, you're going to need to commit a little bit more than just one video to that idea. You're going to have to commit an entire YouTube channel to that idea. If you already have a YouTube channel that's set up and you want to experiment, you can put all your resources from that one channel into marketing that other channel and give that a good head start. You can do that. And if it fails, guess what? Your idea wasn't that great in the first place. It's just a business decision that YouTube has made to make sure that each channel is doing what it can to be bingeable so people don't leave YouTube. It really actually makes a lot of sense. Whether or not you like it, it is what it is. YouTube's not your friend. It's not your enemy. It's simply a platform that has found a good way for them, or they have found the way that they want to make money. And that is with a bunch of thumbnails of my dumb face and a little yellow box with whatever I'm talking about it in it. So I wanted to take a look also at a couple other YouTube channels to illustrate my point further. There's a wider sort of wrestling space on YouTube than just my own personal bubble, which includes my friends from Wrestle Talk, Cultaholic, Parts Unknown, Fightful, Brian Zane. There's a wider world out there. Simon Miller, he's a favorite of mine. There's a wider world of channels that I'm not as familiar with, but I was doing some research for this video. There's a lot of very successful YouTube channels out there. One of them, Pilana Productions. I don't know a whole lot about this YouTube channel, but it seems to be that they do really, really well. look at these numbers on these videos. These are doing really, really well. And as you can see, the thumbnails are kind of similar in theme. You always know when this comes across your recommendeds, oh, it's a new video from these people. In this Polana Productions channel, all these videos feed well into their other videos, making them bingeable. And if you get to a video that, oh, I'm not really into this, maybe there's another one from the same channel that you are into because it kind of does the same thing over and over again. It's talking about wrestling in a certain way, different topics every time, but it's doing it in the same manner. Another friend of mine, Tony Pizza Guy, awesome guy. Check out the Deadlock podcast. Also check out his YouTube channel. He's got a great series called What Went Wrong. And it's self-explanatory. What went wrong with the NWO and WWF? What went wrong with Bray Wyatt and The Fiend in WWE? What went wrong with Aleister Black in WWE? He's branding his content so that it's all similar and it all feeds into each other. Another wrestling YouTuber more in the 2K field is Brandon Does Everything. Look at this. This dude has got a crazy huge audience, and look at all the work he puts into his thumbnails. These are bright, colorful, really well-designed thumbnails. And he talks about wrestling. He talks about 2K. He gets on Wrestling Reddit, which is a great idea. And all the videos are really, really well produced. And look at that. He's being rewarded by that. YouTube pushes his stuff a lot, and he's got really, really great views. Another channel that illustrates my point, this is the last one we're going to look at, is Wrestling Bios. This is looking at old wrestling content, and it's really well-produced stuff. It's all very thematically the same. You've got thumbnails that you always kind of know what you're getting. It's got a couple different series, but they all do really, really well. And he's built up a really great audience looking at a lot of the classic things from wrestling days past. Look at this, the Sting Vampiro WCW rivalry, reliving WWF In Your House 12. There's a whole series on reliving Raw versus Nitro. He has found his niche in pro wrestling media, and he is becoming pretty successful at that. Those numbers are pretty good. So my advice to you, if you're trying to get into YouTube, is find an idea that either nobody's doing or you think you could do better than anybody else. If that's reviewing Dynamite and Rampage, or reviewing Dark and Elevation, or reviewing, every episode, like vintage episodes of Raw. If you have a hook or a voice or a way of producing wrestling media that is different and you think better than everybody else's, then that's the way to go. Make it basically one type of content with variety in each different episode that you're producing. Does that make sense? So what I would suggest is don't say, I want to review some McDonald's, the latest McDonald's chicken sandwich. Oh, by the way, I also want to review a Raw from 3 weeks ago. Topicality is really important in YouTube as well. If you're going to review like All Out, you probably should have done it by now. So the earlier you get to it, the better off you're going to be. Equipment is really important. You don't want to be doing a YouTube video and then all of a sudden it looks like this. Like this right here looks like crap. And I'm not saying you have to have like the best equipment, but you might want to look at some YouTube tutorials in terms of how to, like, what lighting equipment you can get that's affordable, what camera equipment you can get that's affordable. I mean, hell, even if you have an iPhone, that's better than this Logitech webcam that I got here. You don't want it to look like this. You want it to look good. You want it to look fancier, right? So the bottom line is with YouTube, whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. I would suggest research. There's a ton of great YouTube, like how to produce stuff for YouTube tutorials. There's like an entire industry now on YouTube, in the YouTube space, just of people making videos on how to YouTube better. There's a ton of them out there. Even YouTube has like a creator insider video series that tells you what's going on with YouTube. But the bottom line is with YouTube, Bingeable content is what they want. And if you want to get into the YouTube wrestling space, that's what you're going to want to do. So yeah, that's my advice for wrestling content on YouTube. Just do what they want you to do, and you might be okay. Again, if you have any questions about this stuff, my wrap-up video a month from now probably is going to be where I answer those questions. Let me look at my list of stuff here really quick and see if there's anything else to say. No, I mean, it is what it is. If you're just starting it now, you are kind of late to the game. Back when me and Larson started with Going in Raw, there were not a whole lot of wrestling YouTube channels out there. So we kind of lucked out in that we sort of figured out that we wanted to do this early on. And now, we're here. We're ingrained. If you search WWE reviews, chances are we're going to be in the top 10 videos that pop up. So sorry, we're not going away anytime soon. But this shouldn't stop you from trying. Anyways, check out one of these other videos here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. Leave your questions in the comments below. I'm going to be answering those in a video coming up. Thank you for watching. Next time, we're going to talk about Twitch. Goodbye.